Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Empowered Mama Summit. Today we have Gabriella Lindsay, who is going to share with us about creating a life by design, and if you're interested in moving abroad, how you can make that happen. So thank you, Gabriella, for joining us today. And if you want to tell the mamas that are watching a little bit more about what you do, I'm sure they'd love to hear it.
Sure. Thank you so much, Carmen. As she mentioned, I work with families who are interested in moving abroad, making a transition to location independence. So finding, location independent income streams, and then making the transition to moving abroad, or if not making a full move abroad, at least being more flexible in that they can travel the world at any given time or live in any part of the world that they should choose for, as long as they should choose. And so that's kind of what I focus on, really focusing on creating what I like to call a life by design, creating a life that focuses on the things that are most important to you, that you value the most. If that's family, being able to spend time with family. If that's, a hobby that you enjoy, that you want to create and do all day long, finding a way to do that. Really creating a lifestyle that looks like exactly what you want it to look like.
Awesome. Yes, that's amazing. So let me start off with, this is kind of, legacy is my thing. And so life by design clearly fits into that. And, in terms of how you are creating your legacy, but what exactly does legacy mean to you?
So legacy means, a few things. I mean, number one, it means literally what are you leaving to the people who come behind you, maybe your children, for example. Like what physical things are you leaving for them? But then more than that, it also means what example are you setting? What type of life are you living while you're living it? What example are you setting for them? What values, morals, ideals are you setting in front of your children? So that when they become adults and when they are ready to, create their own life, what will they create based on what you kind of showed them, what you modeled for them as a parent?
Yeah. And I love that. And so why would you say that, creating this like life by design, or creating, a life that essentially is specific to you, right? So everyone has a purpose and wants to live out their life a certain way. But why would you say that living, a purpose-filled life is important? And do you have any tips for moms who are maybe trying to figure that out, or, kind of back to like, okay, where do I want to go? And then I guess another question, and we can answer this after, but is what was your turning point? Like let's go back. What was your turning point in terms of, living this life by design? Had you always lived with purpose and intention, or was there, something that happened in your life that made you say, you know what, I got to do something different?
Okay. There was definitely a turning point. I mean, I like to think that I've always kind of lived with some purpose and some intention, but I was I worked full-time as an assistant principal at an elementary school. And, spending a lot of time getting to and from my job, putting the best hours of the best energy, my best person into my job, and kind of like leaving the leftovers for, my household. And, having 3 kids in as many years, kind of, you can't do that. You need to be there for your kids. You can't be yelling at them to put their shoes on when they're only 1, right? I can't expect that. And so, so that kind of started this whole process of me kind of thinking like, oh, what do I really want in life? But didn't really know how to do that. And my mother passed away actually last year, February. And very, kind of unexpectedly, she was sick, but not that sick. And I talked to her on Monday, and then Monday night I talked to her, and then Wednesday morning I got a phone call that she had passed. And so in that moment, in that instant, I kind of realized, what am I doing? What do I want to do, and what type of life do I want to lead, and what do I want to show my kids as what happiness is? And I realized, life is short. Like, we don't have a guaranteed number of days. We don't know how long we're going to be in this physical body. We don't know how long we have to do that thing that we're dreaming about doing. We don't know how long we're going to be here in order to, see our kids grow up, to see our kids, blossom and bloom. And, the sooner that you can start doing the things that you love, the sooner that you can start being happy, the sooner that you can start showing your kids the way that you want their life to look, the better, because, tomorrow isn't promised. And so, after my mom passed, my husband and I talked about it, and we really realized, like, we are kind of miserable. We're really, like, not happy doing this. And so what can we do to change that? What needs to change? And, one of the things that we felt needed to change was we just needed to get away from it all. We needed to get away from the rat race. We needed to get away from, the American dream, the expectation of this, that, and the other, and really just kind of focus on our family. And for us, that meant moving to Mexico. That meant cutting our expenses. That meant cutting down, having the opportunity to be a little bit more flexible with our finances, leave our jobs, kind of create our own sources of income, and just really show our kids, like, you can do this. If you have faith, if you have a vision, if you have, intention and tenacity, you can go after pretty much anything that you want. And we wanted to show them that. We wanted to show ourselves that, and then, by default, show them that as well.
And I think that is, like, so key, because, we can tell our kids a million and one times to do something, right? To follow these steps, to do these certain actions. But the truth is they'll mimic our actions before they actually will listen to us, right? And so I think that's so important, that you want to, model your life, or you want to be, I guess, a role model in how you live your life for your children. And I think that actually taking the action and doing what you say that you're going to do, or that you want to do, because it's so easy, right, for moms to be like, oh, I want you to travel the world, or I want you to do X, Y, and Z. Yet as a parent, we haven't done any of that for ourselves, or we're stuck in a 9-to-5 because we have these golden handcuffs, or we're living a miserable life, but we're telling our kids to do something else. But all that we've showed them is, you get into this job, or you do, this, and you live up the American dream, you enter into a mortgage if that's what and it's kind of like, it's such a great thing to model it for them. So I think that's awesome. And you're right, life is short. We don't know, as in the estate planning part of it, I've had clients who come in freaking out because they have, like, an emergency surgery, and they're like, I need this done, like, ASAP, I need a rush on it. And, they go into the surgery and they're fine. Or I have people come in, they're like, oh, I was diagnosed with cancer. They're giving me a couple years, and a month later they're passing. So it's, you don't know what's going to happen. The man, there was on the news, I don't know if it was today or when it was, but the man who was on the carnival ride and passed, like, you don't think that anything is going to happen to you, but the truth is, like, anything can happen at any moment. So, stop wasting time. Right. And I love that. So now I guess it kind of ties into that, but why now is a purpose-filled life important? And do you have tips for someone who maybe just kind of exploring, like, knowing that they're feeling stuck and wanting more? Like, maybe do you have like a tip or something on, maybe what worked for you, or how they can kind of get out of that, like, unstuckness?
Definitely. So, for me, it's important to live a purpose-filled life. I think without having purpose, without having some kind of direction, some kind of idea, some kind of, I don't want to say end goal, because those can change, right? Those move around, but just having some reason for being here, reason for being you, reason for getting up in the morning, it's hard. It's hard to get up in the morning if you don't have a reason to get up in the morning, right? So finding that purpose is so important. And, one of the ways that, a tip, one way to find that purpose and then, try to incorporate that into your life, something that I try to do on a regular basis, and having 3 kids, sometimes it doesn't happen, but, I try to have, like, morning quiet time, what I like to call quiet time, getting up, setting my alarm I try to set it at least 30 minutes ahead of the time that my kids usually get up. And this gives me an opportunity to sometimes I just lay in bed quietly. Sometimes I actually get up and, like, read a devotional, or read, some kind of something encouraging, and just kind of, like, think about, what is my day going to be like? What is my week going to look like? What is my month, my year, etc. Kind of setting, like, what is my purpose for the day? What am I going to do? What kind of energy am I going to exude? What kind of, am I going to have, today I'm going to be patient. Today I'm going to be loving. Today I'm going to exude smiles and happiness and cheerfulness and, things like that. is helpful. And then also to just taking the opportunity at some point to like write down all the things that make you happy. Write down all the things that you could do all day long that wouldn't require, no one would have to check in on you. You wouldn't have to be followed up after. No one would have to pay you to do it. No one would have to force you to do it. There are things that you would do just naturally. If you had no kids, no spouse, no job, no responsibilities, what would you do with your day? And write down those things and try to find a way to incorporate those into your everyday. If you would play cello all day long, well, do you own a cello? Can you play it for 5 minutes every day? Can you come home from work and just like barricade yourself in the room for 10 minutes and just play? Can you do it at midnight? Can you knit something for 5 minutes? Whatever it might be, finding little ways to incorporate those things into your day, just to give you that energy. And who knows, like you may actually find that in doing that, in those little hobbies, in those little 5 minutes a day, you may find like your purpose, your meaning. You may find your next business. I mean, who knows? 5 minutes a day at cello, you become a cello instructor, or you play for the symphony orchestra. Who knows? So
yeah, and I think that that's so important. The quiet time. Like I know I'm guilty as a mom and a business owner, right? I don't always do the quiet time, and you kind of get caught up in what's on social media and just all of the noise. And as a business owner, you should do X, Y, and Z. As someone who's trying to climb the corporate ladder, you do X, Y, and Z, and it's getting so caught up in that noise, and you're trying to do what everybody else is doing and not really kind of like dropping down from up here into to the heart space, right? And what your soul and your body are really asking you for. So I think that's awesome. And then just taking out like 5 minutes a day to kind of tap into that, or whatever, is calling you in the moment or in that day. And I think that there's lots of clarity around that. So I think that's such a great tip. And it's also very empowering, right? Because you start to learn who you are, or you reconnect with the person that you were before you became a mom, before you became a wife or a partner, before, society told us who we were supposed to be. You connect into, who you really are as a person, and that's empowering. And, this summit is called the Empowered Mama Summit, right? So it's really just reclaiming your personal power. And by, kind of dropping down and doing the exercise that you said, I think women will really be able to connect with themselves. And then also, the purpose-filled life and all of that, is empowering, that reclaiming of your personal power, taking charge of your life, deciding how your day is going to go. You know what? I'm going to give myself 30 minutes to either meditate, do yoga, go on a run, whatever it is, but you owning and you are making the conscious decision, right, to create your day. So on that note, what would you say empowerment means to you, or what does it mean to be an empowered mama?
So, back to what you said, it was perfect, like finding that person you were before you were a mom. And I think like one of the major keys to being an empowered mama is being a woman first, maybe. I hate to say it, but like, yeah. I know that sounds a little selfish, but I think a lot of times, so often we have the tendency to put our kids before us, our kids' needs before us. And that's wonderful. It's selfless. And I think we all do it consciously and subconsciously, but I think we have to also consciously make the effort to be women first, be ourselves first, fill our cup first. They say, you can't fill, what is the saying? You can't pour from an empty cup. Yeah. Right. And so if all we can define ourselves as is a mom, like what happens when our kids are grown? What happens when they're, 18, 20, 30, they're ready to fly the coop? We're lost, right? And if we're caught so much up in, the kids and that we don't have our own identity, I think that can lead to, a lot of, personal, issues, the self-confidence, the lack of, the desire, the getting up in the morning type stuff. So, I think one of the most empowering things for moms is to really just tap into who you are aside from your kids, who you are at your core, who you are as a woman, what drives you, what excites you, what fuels your fire, what fills your cup, and making sure that we do something along those lines every single day, incorporate something that fills us solely selfishly every single day, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, but making sure we take that time every day for ourselves.
Yeah. And I think, the self-care thing is such a huge deal, right? I have, a few other experts that we're going to be having on the summit that talk about that, but it's this idea that, self-care is selfish, but like you said, it's like, we're going to be crappy moms, we're going to be crappy partners, crappy, business women, if we don't take care of ourselves. And so I think that's part of it, is just, reigniting that fire, like you said. So why would you say that actually stepping into your power is important for creating a legacy?
Well, again, we are modeling for our children. We're modeling for the people around us how we can be our best selves. And so therefore how they can be their best selves. And so, by stepping into your power, by stepping into what your purpose is, by living your life, like I like to say, faithfully, intentionally, and tenaciously, by tapping into that, that's one of the only ways you're going to be your best self. That's the only way you're going to show up as your best self for yourself and for others. So really just, again, taking that time to figure out who you are, what you want, where you're going for you, and doing that day after day after day will model for your kids exactly what they need to do day after day after day. And as they grow, that becomes their legacy. That becomes a legacy of empowerment. It becomes a legacy of, a can-do attitude. That becomes the legacy of knowing that, that they are enough, that they matter, and that they can, really accomplish whatever it is they set their minds to. And they know it because you did it, because you showed them. You didn't just tell them, like you said, our actions speak much louder than our words. You didn't just tell them, you didn't just fill them up with hype cliches. You actually showed them, like, my mama did this, my mama wanted this, she did that, she did this, and now look at that, and now I can do it too because I saw her do it, and I know I have the tools to do it too.
Yeah. And I think that's a great perspective. Now, kind of tying in this legacy and creating your legacy, you left I don't want to say it's not like a corporate, but you left like a more traditional job, right? To kind of pursue this expat living. What would you say would be like a takeaway or something that would help the women who are maybe watching that might want to, move abroad or, make the change? What would you say is, because I think that's kind of what you focus on, right? Making that transition, and you help these, women and get their families up and into another country if they want to, right? What would you say would be like a key component of actually making that change happen, to making, that part of their legacy come to fruition?
Okay. Excellent question. Gosh, there's so many factors. First and foremost, for me, it was finding a way to, make income independent of my, more traditional 9-to-5 job, which is, it's not always easy. A lot of times I definitely would not recommend like quit your job and just think you're going to start a business the next day. That's not how it really works. We hear these stories of, oh, he made 6 figures in 3 months, his first 3 months in business, but they forget to mention the fact that he'd been kind of plugging away at that business for the 2 years. And then it wasn't until, he just decided to tell you that was, yeah, exactly.
Like 4th business that he started.
Exactly. It took them, 6, 7, 8, 10 years to figure out the formula, and then boom, it, finally clicked, right? So I definitely don't recommend that. But, what I can recommend is I can recommend finding, location independent income sources that you can do around your job. So like what I did was, while I was in my 9-to-5, I partnered with a network marketing company. And I was able to kind of in the pockets of my day, make little side income, and that side income, that supplemental income for at the time, because we weren't thinking about moving, that supplemental income was it was travel money. It was, new shoes money without having to ask nobody kind of money. It was like fun play money, go out to lunch with my girlfriends instead of bringing my packed lunch. It was that kind of money. But in time, it kind of grew. And as the idea of becoming, more and more location independent, kind of came into my mind, it became more strategic. And, if you're going into it thinking you do want to get away, like rather than being shoe money, let it be, let it be seed money, let it be, savings, let it be money that's going to help you to, take that reconnaissance trip abroad. So you can spend 2-3 weeks in the country that you want to live in, living like a local, kind of getting a feel for the lay of the land before you make, that big plunge. That's my big thing really, is like finding that location independent income to help you to make that transition if and when you're ready to, to make that transition. And then once you do decide to make that transition, set a date. like legit set a date. Like so many women come to me, I want to move someday, 3 to 5 years. Okay, well, what are you doing? Well, I don't know. I'll figure it out when the time comes. Well, when's the time? And, you know, going back, like, when is the time going to come? Like, really, like, putting that date, buying that plane ticket, or, you know, putting that house on the market, or whatever it is that's going to push you, signing a lease abroad somewhere, whatever it is that's going to push you to finish. Because for us, we did a reconnaissance trip in July and we signed a lease. And it was like, we could either keep paying rent on this house that we're not living in, or we can get our stuff together and get moving. So we signed the lease and we bought plane tickets. And so we had like a set 3 months. We had like 3 months, like, get our stuff together.
Really happening.
Yeah. That made it real. It's like, if we miss that plane, we're out like 3,000, you know, there's 5 of us. So we're out like, you know, $3,000 worth of plane money, and we're out all these months of rent. It's like, it's real, it's happening. So we got to get it done. So location independent income and setting a date would be like the two, and a reconnaissance trip, the 3 most.
Make sure that that's where you want to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Traveling to a place and living in a place are completely different. So many women come and say, oh, we had this great time on this all-inclusive, you know, resort. It was awesome. I can't wait to move to Cambodia. And you're like, yeah, but living in Cambodia is different, or living in Thailand, or living, you know, in Mexico, wherever it is very different. So reconnaissance trip, location independent income, and setting a date would be like my 3 major.
You know what I love too about that is, you know, you were saying about the income part of it, right? Because again, legacy does include, you know, income and your wealth and your assets or whatever it is. But what I love is that, you know, initially what your income was for was, you know, shoes or like play money, right? To take a trip or to go out to eat. And really kind of, you know, this goes back to figuring out like who you are and what's important to you. So if what's important to you is travel, great. You know, you save your money and you do, you know, you go on trips. If, you know, fancy handbags and shoes are your jam, then you save your money and you do that, and you know, create a stockpile. Or if moving abroad, then you save your money to kind of, you know, as seed money. But I think that's so important that, you know, just, it's a little bit off topic, but not, because it's, you know, around the income goals and around legacy, is that you figure out what you want to do with your life, right? You're creating your life, and then you create the income, whether it's through your 9 to 5, through its, you know, side hustle or whatever it is, to live out that life. And you don't have to buy the handbags because everyone else has it, or buy the latest shoes, because what you really want to do is travel. And the people who are buying the handbags aren't necessarily the same people that want to travel. And so not trying to do it all if it's not fully aligned with you, I think is key. And I think that's such a great, you know, great thing to consider, that it goes from maybe being travel to moving abroad expenses or whatever that is. So I think that's great. So how do you, tell me a little bit about how you help women to kind of create their plan, right? To do those probably 3 action items that you were talking about, the 3 important steps. So tell me how you can help, you know, a mom that's watching who may want to move her family abroad, to actually do that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I help. So on my website, we do have a website. And so on the website, there are a few PDFs on there that can help you. And actually, you'll get one, I think, through this program today. There's a couple of PDFs on there that kind of take you through, you know, one is called The Essential Guide to Moving Abroad, 40 Questions to Ask Before Moving Abroad. There's a few PDFs on there that can help you kind of do it yourself. And then I also offer consultation to answer questions that you may have, and then also to start the research process. And a lot of times, a lot of people come to me, especially moms, they've got kids, they've got a job, they've got a husband, they've got responsibilities, and they know they need to find a school abroad. You know, they know they're moving and they need to find a school. They need to find a house. They need to know how long they can stay, what the visa requirements are. And they need to know, can they get, you know, adequate medical care? What kind of coverage can they get? Can they get the medications that, you know, their kid or their spouse or themselves that they need, et cetera. So many things. And, you know, the internet is great, but it's also like really overwhelming. And sometimes it's like, where do I even start? And so I consult with women on that process. I get, you know, all the questions that they have, and I create kind of like a research template for them. I search out, you know, the different websites, find the different government websites, find different schools, restaurants, apartment links, et cetera, et cetera. I find these things for them. Of course, they have to follow up and do their own due diligence. I can't decide what apartment's best for you. I can't decide what school is best for your kid. I can't decide which doctor or pediatrician is best. But I can provide the resources to you so that you can kind of like, it'll already be narrowed down. You're not just looking at all of the internet. You've got, some very specific links that you can, then plug into and make the connections yourself. I also have a lot of friends, other women around the world who I have connections with. So, if you're in need of like on the ground care, if you need a friend, you need to talk to somebody who's, actually in Costa Rica, I got you. I know somebody in Costa Rica, I can help you, I can connect you, so that you can have, those, very specific conversations that sometimes need to be had, or maybe somebody to just meet you at the airport and help you get around during your reconnaissance trip and show you where the best, safest areas are to live. So I kind of try to make those connections for families as they're, kind of starting out the research process.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Like, I mean, I'm that person where I'm like, oh, someday I want to move abroad and, take my daughter. And then there's things that come up. Well, I'm a single mom. Like, is it going to be like wherever I decide to move, would it be safe? Will it, what comes up? Like, I know that I've been looking at a retreat in Bali. And so I was going to, but they're like, nannies are huge. Like, it's such a family friendly like area. And they're like, oh, we have tons of nanny services. I was like, oh, I can actually, take my daughter. But this was, again, connecting with someone who's local, who knows the area because she lives there. But I think, and the medication thing, like, yeah, they don't have all the same medications, and, pharmacies work differently, and, insurance coverage is very different. So sheesh.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Once you start to think about it and you're like, oh, it's not just as easy as like, let me minimize everything I own here, book a flight and go somewhere, because a lot can happen if it's not, well planned out, or you've never been there before.
Yeah, especially with kids. I know a lot of women who are like solo travelers, and they just got a backpack and they, hope for the best. But when you have kids, family, it definitely takes, more planning, because it's not just you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because I think about, okay, I can go and travel and explore more on my own, but I wouldn't go and take my daughter with me because I was like, I don't really know the lay of the land yet. And it's a different mix and a different vibe. And yeah, awesome. That is awesome. Well, if you are wanting to move abroad, you'll get Gabriella's free gift, her PDF, and reach out to her. But to wrap up, if there's one piece of advice for moms who are essentially just now looking to figure out what their purpose is, I know that you mentioned, doing that morning routine exercise is good, but if there's one piece of advice that you could give them that that they could walk away from, your interview with, what would that be?
I think the one piece of advice is just to remember that you are enough and that you matter. And that whatever you do, whatever, successes you have, whatever challenges, whatever perceived failures you might have, you're still doing fine. Like, you just keep going, keep your head, nose to the grindstone, stay faithful, stay intentional, stay tenacious in your journey, and know that you are enough and that you matter.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to forget that, right? As moms, where we're kind of caught up doing everything else for everyone else. And, we wonder if we're doing a good job. And even just being us, right? We question that.
Yeah.
Well, Gabriella, thank you so much. I loved having you, and the moms here will all get your free PDF. And if you guys want to figure out how to move abroad, or what steps to take, or just kind of, flirt with the idea, reach out to Gabriella. What's your website?
It's www.lavidalindsay.com. LAVIDALINDSAY.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Carmen. I appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, take care.
And we will see the rest of you tomorrow for the rest of our interview series. Bye.